Greetings. I'm coming to you from the void, the dark, the triple stages of darkness. If you look at your screen, this is what a child sees when they're in a mother's womb. I am Kasi Kimui Amen Ra. I've been known as Imhotep. I have been known as Ike from the Heights. I have been known as Murdoch. I have been known as OG Mac. I have been known as Imhotep. I have been known as Dr. Moreau. I have been known by infinite numbers of manifestations throughout eons. In this darkness that you see, time does not exist. In this darkness that you see, you do not exist. In this darkness that you see, God does not exist. In this darkness that you see, my voice does not exist. Into the darkness was in the beginning. And out of the darkness, God said, let there be light. The light is only a reflection of the darkness. There are discoveries that when you go to sleep, you're plunged into darkness. Many of you have been taught to be afraid of the dark. Many of you have been taught that anything dark is evil. I say, and I say it again, that the darkness is not evil. For the darkness, the void existed before light. So how can it be evil? And why would the Creator, who you call God, pull light out of darkness? The light is only a reflection of darkness. But I'm here to tell you today that in 2018, I was in Nassau County Jail. Michael Matthews. And they said I did over 100 burglaries. At the time, I was living with my mother at the Avalon, a beautiful place, a gracious place, a place of her retirement, a place she wanted to be because she's rooted there. I was falsely accused of committing over 100 burglaries. I was facing a life sentence, 100 years in prison. I had to transform into Kasi Kimui Amen Ra. I had to transform into this persona of OG Mac. In Nassau County Jail, I think I got at least 200 guys out of prison that year or within the corresponding years. They took me to, when I got there, to a medical unit. And on that medical unit, there were a lot of different people who supposedly had mental health problems. I had no mental health problems, but I was plunged on a tier with individuals with mental health problems. There was a gang war on that tier one day, and there were Hispanic men fighting against blacks and whites. I did not enter the fray. I was ordered to go into my cell, and there were individuals who refused, so they continued to fight. One guy, I will not tell you whether he was black, white, or Hispanic, had liquid in a jar. He threw the liquid, but it hit me on the arm, and it burned. It burnt me, not in the sense of something burning the flesh. It burnt me to my core, and I transformed. I had a change. So I had to see the psych unit because something was happening to me that I could not understand. My dreams were not dreams. I could not sleep. My thoughts began to expand. I did not know the compunctions of this change. They said, they interviewed me and asked me, they pulled in a mental health specialist, and he said that I had schizophrenia. I did not understand. I did not conceive of what he was really saying. So I gave him information. He walked me through time. He walked me back from everything that happened to me as a child until an adult. And he made the assessment that I had mental health problems. I did not know, even though I went to college, my major was journalism, my minor was psychology. He told me terms that I did not understand, but they seemed accurate, so they prescribed to me Seroquel. So from 2018 to 2025 years, I was on Seroquel. But I started to go to the Epic Center or the Epilepsy Center when I got out of prison in 2021. They forced me to go to trial. I did not want to go. And I began to realize that I had powers that I could not understand or comprehend. They were overwhelming. I began to know things. I began to understand higher concepts and principles of law. And during that period of time, men came to me with their cases. I stayed into the books. I stayed up all night. My light never went off in my cell. I had stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks of paper, books on everything you could think of. Freemasonry, world religion, astronomy, physics, maritime, and many, many other things that I mastered. And then I became a 33 1/3 degree Grand Master Freemason of the highest order of the York and Scottish Rites. So every time I went to court, Teresa Corrigan, who's the chief judge, called me Mr. 33 1/3. This was during the time that Madeline Singers was the district attorney. She was the district attorney. My courtrooms were always sealed because one day me and Judge Corrigan got into a disagreement. And she told me that you're going to trial. And I said, no, I'm not. I did not dishonor the court. That particular day, I remember there was a black woman and her son or daughter, and the courtroom was full of mostly Caucasian people. And I manifested my degrees. And after that period of time, she told me in our heated argument that you're going to trial. And I was adamant, no, I'm not. They broke it down to 10 charges that they knew, that they believed, not knew, that I could not win. And I remember one night, I got down on my knees into the dark, and I spoke to who y'all call God. And I said to them, because in the dark, God said, let us make man. But in the beginning, he said, let there be light. I spoke to the one that said, let there be light. And I knew at that point that everything I learned in church, everything I learned in Islam, and everything I learned in Judaism was not true. And no, God did not talk back to me. He never does. They don't tell you how God talks. They just say, plagiarizing what God said. Because no one in the history of this so-called planet has ever said what God sounded like, whether it was the voice of a man or a woman. And who said it was a voice? No one can. No one on this facsimile of Earth has ever said what God's voice sounds like. Well, I'm going to tell you, I know what it sounds like. When I was a child, I was different. I was raised by 5 women on Wilklow, which is now Martin Luther King Drive. My sister lived on that block, but they kept us separated. I knew not why. I knew not why. I could only believe what I was told. And so I knew that these 5 women loved me and protected me and would kill to protect me. And I remember I was always around adults. My mother bought me a Britannica encyclopedia. I think I was about 7. I would not lie. And she also bought me a medical journal. I'll never forget it. It was a thick red book, and it had translucent pages of the human body. And when you peel back the layers, you could peel back from the flesh all the way to the intricate organs and the skeleton and everything. I remember one year, my stepfather, who was a brutal man, he put me on a punishment. I had to be 10 or 11. He put me on a punishment from the whole summer. Directly across the street was my best friend, Barry Anderson, Kelly, Tracy, Andre, and I do not think Darryl was born at this time, who was the youngest. Their grandmother was known as Nana, who owned a house on Yale, and Popsy. In that summer, he took away all my books. And so I read everything I could. I read every can label. He only would let me have the comics. And I read that. I would look out the window and see the birds. And they would all gather by my window on Princeton Street. And they would make sounds. And I had an affinity that I understood them. I got proof right now. At the Edgewood Hotel, everyone has roaches in their room, but I do not. There's not one roach in my room. You won't find one. And so I knew I was different. I was very intelligent. I had an affinity for learning. When I got into the 6th grade, my 6th grade teacher name was Miss Moran. And of course, she was a white woman, but she was very, very, very acute and attentive to me. And she realized that the stuff that she was giving the other kids to learn was beneath me because of my rapid learning. I didn't have to study my times tables. I already knew them. And if you remember, well, back in those days, no child was ever giving a test except to recite the times table. But I knew them. And so they sent a letter to my mother that they wanted to advance me to the 7th grade. During that period of time, the enemy who I know now is the enemy, were always after the gifted black children. Now, I told you I was raised by 5 women. I know 3 men who have lived and who are not dead, for there is no such thing as death. In, in 1965, the whereabouts of Dr. Martin Luther King and Coretta were very, very mysterious. The reason why the government always tracked them is because of the gifts that they had to impart in their ancestry. There were 3 men who were raised by 5 women. The Malcolm X story is a lie, his autobiography. And Spike Lee, you should be ashamed of yourself. Dr. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and James Baldwin were raised by 5 women. And so was I. They say that in 1965 that Dr. Martin Luther King was at Columbia. He was giving a lecture in New York. They also say that he went to Malvern or Long Beach, which is a lie. They could not find Dr. Martin Luther King in 1965 that summer, or Coretta. They said he was in Selma, but he was not. In 1965, Dr. Martin Luther King came to. How he got there, how he lost the FBI who followed him every day, monitored his whereabouts, but they could not find him that summer. He was in New York. They knew that. This goes out to the children of Dr. Martin Luther King, the children of Malcolm X, and the children of James Baldwin. In 1965, the summer of 1965, Dr. Martin Luther King did not go see Hazel Dukes. He did not go see a civil rights leader in Malvern. He did not go see a church in Long Beach. Dr. Martin Luther King and Coretta Scott King came to see a young boy in Hempstead, off of South Franklin, who lived at Wilklow with 5 women. And that child was me. And so they named in his honor the street called Wilklow Dr. Martin Luther King Drive. You must understand something, that they're probably going to hack this public announcement. And that's why I have you plunged in darkness, because you are still in darkness. I call black people traitors, and you are, for you know not what you do. And so, in 1965, Martin Luther King was on Long Island, on South Franklin, on Wilklow. Malcolm X In the 70s, there used to be a street called 125th Street, and now it's called Malcolm X Boulevard. They would not name it after that great man if he did not visit that place. It's a landmark. And I tell you today that Martin Luther King Drive is a landmark, a living landmark. In fact, they have not torn down any of those buildings and reconstructed them buildings on Martin Luther King Drive, especially the ones with the pillars. The house, the place where we lived at, they had white pillars in front. They may have taken them down now, I'm not sure. And so I remember him, and I remember his wife. And they spoke to me. I know not, and I do not remember the details of those conversations, but I knew that I was blessed by him. I knew not who he was. And so my whole life, I knew that I was different. And one thing that I knew, that I was hated. And I could not understand why. I could not understand why men, black men, did not like me. And so, as I journeyed through this physical reality you call life, information has been given to me. And so here I am. On my Twitter page, no man living can debate anything that I posted. Which is why the perfection of life is in threes. I do everything in threes. I don't know why, but I know now why. You say there's a Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. That's three. But I tell you today, the number three is more powerful than that. Here I am now. They say I'm 65. And in these 65 years, I mastered all three major religions: Islam, Judaism, and the Bible. Today I stand before you as an imam. Today I stand before you as a rabbi. And today I stand before you as a minister by the gift of God's grace, granted to me in accord by the exercise of his power. I did not need a certificate or go to Bible school to become a minister. That is a gift of God's grace. I remember as a child, my mother kept me out of church. And I remember that she loved God, but she did not believe in church. Not that it was a bad place, but she did not want me to be corrupted by spiritual doctrines of men. I am certified because I became a minister, an imam, and a rabbi in prison. and it's well documented that I conducted religious services. In Riverhead, I was the head imam in 1990. No, in 1994 or 5, somewhere around that period of time. And I'll never forget, and you can check. There's a public record that a black man was killed in the South Lobby of Riverhead Correctional Facility. I was the imam. I ran the Jewish services on Friday. Everyone knew me as Imam Abdul Malik Ali. And so I went deeper into those studies. But what happened was Ponticello was the head of security in Riverhead. He came to me. He came to me. Every gang you could think of was in Riverhead at that time. It's a public record. The records don't lie. I had got framed for stealing a car. And so I took the plea out of ignorance and necessity. They gave me a 1.5 to 3 years in prison. Ponticello came to me and said, "We need you." And I said, "For what?" He said, "We got information that all inmates, black, white, the Aryans, the MS-13, MS-18, the Bloods, the Crips, the Yetas, the Latin Kings, the Trey Eights, the entire jail, we're going to tear that jail to pieces." And he said to me, "We need your help to talk to them." And I listened. And this is a matter of public record. I do not lie. And so I said to him, "Tell me more." He said, "Well, we want you to explain to them that before they tear the jail up, we're going to do a full investigation." So they contacted the New York State Department of Corrections and told them that they would keep me down after my sentencing because the administrators at the Riverhead Correctional Facility knew that they could not stop this riot that was coming. I don't think you can know the immensitude of what was going to happen. They were very fearful because the words that they used is that they were going to tear the jail apart, brick by brick. And so I agreed with Ponticello under one condition, that this young woman that I wanted to marry, that we could have conjugal visits. And we got married. And we had conjugal visits in the library at Riverhead Correctional Facility. And so, I will not tell you her name. No officer was in the room with me and her. No chaperone. Nothing. And I spoke to everybody in that prison. I was not locked down. I could go anywhere I wanted to. in the jail. Me and that woman had sex, and she told me she was pregnant. I'm not going to tell you the result, but I will tell you this. The young man, they said that the security guard put a chokehold on him, and he died. Not from the choke. He died because he drowned in his own vomit. Let me explain something to you. If someone puts you in a chokehold and you have medical conditions, and I do not know what was on his stomach, but it caused him to vomit. And because he was struggling, because he couldn't breathe, the vomit burned not only his throat, not only his nostrils, not only his brain, but everything, because all of his stomach contents came up and went through the windpipe. That's how he died. And this is no lie. It's a public record. I stayed there for 3 months. And what happened was, even though he vomited, he was already dead because his heart had stopped. And he was already dead. The vomit was a natural reaction because the air tube was cut off. So not only did he vomit, he defecated at the same time. That means he was dead. Because when you die, your bowels automatically open up and release whatever's in there. There's nothing to hold your feces from being discharged. I went through all of that. On my Twitter page, I challenged Cornel West, Kenneth Copeland, Pastor Cherry, T.D. Jakes, Creflo Dollar, Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson. I challenged Joe Osteen, who should be in hell, and he's going. I also told them who I am, and no man living can debate me, or will go on my Twitter page and rebut anything that I've said. I even proved to them that Facebook owes me $2 billion, and they can't pay it. And so I'll take you in deeper. And everything I'm saying is factual. So backtracking to Nassau County, they were afraid of me. I know for a fact that I helped 100 young men get out of prison. And anybody that remembers O.G. Mack knows I tell no lie. The officers did not come in my cell. They did not shake me down. They did not do a search. They did not play games with me. They never told me I couldn't turn my light off because they have a policy that lights out in Nassau County Jail. All cell lights should be out. My lights never stayed out. And those officers respected me. And I never disrespected any of them. I ran the Jewish services in Nassau County Jail. I did the Seder. I'm telling you, and all those guys was with me, know I got them out of prison. My son, Sterling Dawson, was facing a lot of time. He's in South Carolina now. He's on my Facebook page. They tried to railroad him. And he came to me one day because I had a ritual. I did not engage in small talk. I would work out, do my physical therapy, physical exercise. I would come out every morning with my writing materials and a cup of coffee, and I would sit there and do calisthenics and continue to study and read, and I would go back into my chamber or the cell. And he came to me one day. He said, they want to give me a lot of time for something I didn't do. And he said, I got a baby daughter I'd like to go home to. And I said, well, I need to know everything that you know, and I need to see every document that they gave you. And I taught him the tenets. I taught him one tenet of my 33 1/3 degrees. In Freemasonry, all around the world, there's only 33 degrees. I am 33 1/3 degree, Grand Master Freemason of the highest orders of the York and Scottish Rites in the world. I did not understand the economic power I had. I did not understand the intellectual power that I had. I did not really understand who I really was until that period of time. It all came together. And so I'm telling you right now, I'm talking to the black people. There's a young man named Marquise who was going with my niece. He was facing 50 years for attempt murder on my brother-in-law and my nephew. He did not do it. I went to court, his trial. No one went to back him up. I came home from Attica and I went to court and told them what I saw and what I knew. And you know what? The jury believed me and they found him not guilty. If you're thinking I'm lying, go to 100 Block and ask anybody that knows O.G. Mack with the beard, the rabbi. They love me. And all I can tell you, his name was Marquise. And when I went to Terrace Avenue to see his mother, a blessed woman, his brother, I will not tell you his name, but he knows. So I'm here to tell you today, if you have a child that's in trouble with the law, bring me 5 cases and I swear I will help your child get out of prison. I swear unto death. And I swear that if I don't do it, then they can lock me up in their place. My name is Michael Matthews on this post. But I'm coming to you today as the 33 1/3 degree Grand Master Freemason. You have my contact information. I don't care what charge he has. There was a young man named O. They took his car, forfeited his car, said that he was selling drugs, and he was at work at BMW on Sunrise Highway in Freeport, went out to take a break in his car. BSO planted drugs on him and confiscated his car. He brought me the paperwork. He's from TA, 100 Block. I did his paperwork, and before I got out in 2020, on bail reform, they gave him his car back. Go on 100 Block and ask. So I'm telling you, I swear my oath, you bring me 5 individuals, I don't care what case they got, I swear by the Most High that I will get them out. Now, this is the proof of who's a liar and who's the son of God. That is why you're in the dark. And if you know, and many of you do know who I am, and if you're afraid to contact me, then you sold your soul. And your sons will rot in prison. I am your salvation. There's nothing on earth that can stop this broadcast. I'm at 38 Jericho Turnpike, Jericho, New York, the Edgewood Motel. My chambers is 18. 1 plus 8 is 9. 9 is life. If you turn this 9 upside down, it's a 6. 6 is death. But if you add that, 9 plus 6 is 15. 1 plus 5 is 6. And 6 plus 6 is 12. And 1 plus 2 is 3. That's the proof that my life has been predicated on those 3 principles. Now I leave you with these words. You can sit there and doubt if you want to. But those young men that know, I got them out of prison. And I'm going to give you another fact. And I hope that you cry. There was a young man, his street name was Cheese. They said that he opened fire on police officers. And he did not. They said that he was running down Midwood over by the hole in the wall off of Clinton. They said that he was opening fire and shooting. They found shells in front of BP gas station. And they charged him with possession of 2 firearms that he did not have. I saw the video. They came and confiscated the videotape from the hole in the wall. I went there and spoke to the owner of the hole in the wall. I seen every document that he had. And I knew he didn't do it. And I'm going to tell you why. It was a lie. They took that man away from his 2 daughters. He was on federal parole. And because he was on federal parole, he couldn't take a charge. He had to go all the way. And he was one of my students. And I had many students who that year went to trial. And they couldn't be afraid because I wasn't afraid. And I told them, you must tell me everything. I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to set you free. And that young man went to trial. And one day he came back to me early and said, I was in the law library. And he said, OG Mac, they want to offer me a misdemeanor. And I begged him. I begged him to take it. I begged him. I said, Chief, please take it. Please. But in his mind, he was right. He won, but they rigged the jury. He was found guilty and given 25 years. That's a death sentence. And I'm going to tell you why Nassau County Police Department, the Nassau County District Attorney's Office, the Legal Aid Society should be ashamed before God, because God will not accept your prayers. I know this because that is the way of truth. Please understand this, ladies and gentlemen. Here's a hypothetical. let's say someone has a firearm and he just goes berserk and starts shooting. They said he was shooting at police officers. Let's take it a step down. Let's say a man was shooting at civilians. Did not kill anyone, but those are attempt murder charges of a firearm. So what is the proper procedure if the police catch you within the hours after the shooting? You never lost you never were out of their sight. Well, the first thing they're supposed to do is secure you. And before they process you, they have to take your clothes as evidence, and they have to do what they call GSR, gunshot residue, to determine, because if you fire a gun, the gunpowder is going to back shoot on you. It's invisible, but it's going to get all over your clothes and it's going to get all over your hands. So they use a certain ultraviolet light to detect it, and then they photograph it as proof that you fired a firearm. And then they connect the dots to determine the firearm that you used, because the gunshot residue would match the gun. I'm here to tell you that a young man is in prison for 25 years because they never did a gunshot residue on him, and may you burn in hell.